Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may there be well-being in all. May there be peace, abiding peace in all. May there be fulfillment in all. May there be auspiciousness in all. Om, peace, peace, peace. All created beings begin to die as soon as they begin to live. All created beings begin to die as soon as they begin to live. When one admits that nothing is certain, one must also add that some things are more certain than others. And what is the most certain thing in our life? Our death. If you dare to live, you should dare to die at every single moment. Good morning, everyone. It's been a while. It really feels as if we have been struck by a pandemic indeed. Hope you're all healthy and trying your best to keep your spirits up in these uncertain moments we are all experiencing in our beautiful world. The world has been shaken by a virus outbreak and is still making havoc. But I guess after a few months, we either don't want to talk about it, pretend it's not happening, or it's not there. Some of us simply ignore it. The truth is that it's still around us, and it's very difficult not to be disturbed, not just by our present, but by our imaginary future. Imaginary future. And when it comes to our imagination, we human beings are pretty good at being quite catastrophic, calamitous. We tend to imagine the worst. And the consequences of it? Fear, anxiety, sadness. So I thought about inviting you all to reflect upon uncertainty, the uncertainty of life, and how to cope with it. We all experience a certain degree of uncertainty in our life, but today, uncertainty has taken over the whole world. It is a very interesting phenomenon to see how it's affecting us, not just as citizens of a country, but as citizens of the world, which is very interesting. Many people have been invited to things that they don't feel comfortable with. Many of us never thought we would live to witness what we are witnessing today. And yet, somehow, we are all dealing with it, coping with it in different ways, the best way we can, the best way we know. Using the resources we have, physical, emotional, and spiritual. These resources have been stored up as mechanisms for cope, based on our past experiences in dealing with uncertainty. Now, I think what's really important to be aware of is of the situations that triggered these mechanisms or ways for coping with uncertainty in the past. The mechanisms we used in the past may not be useful for us under the present circumstances. You see, we have created certain patterns for coping that have turned into habits, and they are deeply connected with our emotions. When these emotions get triggered again by external circumstances, we need to be alert and discern whether these resources are okay to be applied in our life today. We are all human beings. We are all led by our tendencies. That's how we create pathways in our minds and connect them with our emotions. We mechanically react according to what we know based on our past experience. Now, the process of rethinking consciously these mechanisms is not easy. It's very stressful. For some of us, this kind of process is easy. For some others, it's definitely not. And there is nothing wrong about it. Uncertain experiences may bring about emotions like fear and anxiety. As humans that we are, we have this amazing capacity to imagine the future. Some of us have this capacity extremely developed and can create horror, frightening moments in our lives. When our thoughts are constantly seeking certainty, wanting to know the future in advance, we get anxious. We get fearful. There are very few people who do not experience these emotions. You have to be either a psychopath or a deaf person not to feel certain degree of anxiety today. Now, I hope we are neither of those. Anxiety is a very natural emotion in all of us. It's a reaction we all have that is trying to tell us something. We usually think of it to be negative and disturbing, but it's not necessarily an enemy. There is a common mistake sometimes we all make, that is to get anxious about being anxious. And that's where the problem starts. We need to understand anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling that tells us when something is wrong and is worth demanding our attention. We wouldn't see the value of what's important without its help. We need to learn how to navigate this emotion and not simply freak out. You can't get rid of this emotion, but you can learn how not to be overwhelmed by it. What we call enlightened beings is not that they are deprived of this emotion, but they have mastered it. There's a huge difference. We can't know the future in advance. It's unknowable. But we still continue to search for it. It sets up the struggle to actually engage in the flow of life, to experience life. Rather than experiencing life, we are trying to run away from these uncertain moments. This induces fear in our lives. We naturally need to think about the future, and in thinking of the future, we lose track of where we are at, we get lost in the delusion of uncertain expectations and an imaginary future when more than ever we need to be with ourselves. Stay connected with our being, capital being. So let's talk about uncertainty. Let's try to go deep into the meaning of it and how it matters more than you think it does. If you realize that all things change, everything around us is subject to change. If you just realize that all things change, there is nothing you will try to hold on to. If you are not afraid of dying, there is nothing you cannot achieve. Lao Tzu. Two people jump out of a plane, flying high above the ocean. One is wearing a parachute, the other is not. Have you ever heard about this?
No.
Two people jump out of a plane, flying high above the ocean. One is wearing a parachute, the other is not. Which person is at greater risk of death? The answer, though, is deceptively simple. The person with the parachute is most at risk. Really? The person with the parachute is most at risk. The fate of the person without the parachute is certain, or more certain, so there is no risk. Risk requires uncertainty, and so life. See how beautiful it is? Scientific knowledge is a body of statements of varying degrees of certainty, some most unsure, some nearly sure, but none absolutely certain. As far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain. As far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. Albert Einstein. Uncertainty, unpredictability, unreliability, riskiness, unsureness, indecision, irresolution, hesitancy, doubt, lack of confidence. Oof, that's what it means. The opposite, predictability, certainty, confidence. Now, how do we cope with such a definition in our life? How do we attempt to overcome uncertainty? But the most important question is, why do we need and demand certainty in our life? That's the key question. Why we want certainty. If you think about it, it doesn't make much sense. Imagine a world where we know exactly what is going to happen the next moment. Try to imagine it. Boring. Imagine a movie where you already know the end. Imagine a life where all is certain. Where would the fun be? So I think we don't dare to stop to think about these things. And at this particular moment in our lives and in the world, we kind of need to stop so that we are not too much affected by uncertainty. Now, let me try to dive this topic from the spiritual point of view so that we can make sense of it. After all, we are all spiritual beings. First thing first. Let me remind you what Vedanta and our teachers say. Vivekananda says, the soul of man is ever striving after certainty, to find something that does not change. Simple. The soul of man is ever striving after certainty, to find something that does not change. It's never satisfied. Wealth, the gratification of ambition or of appetite, are all changeable. Once these are attained, man is not content. It's never enough. The desire of the human soul is to find out something that is stable. The mind and the body, in fact, all the various phenomena of nature, are in the condition of incessant change. Innumerable have been and will be its manifestation and its passage from one personality to another, subject to a great law of spiritual evolution, until it reaches perfection, where there is no more change. Religion is the science which teaches us when to satisfy this longing after the unchangeable. Behind all the local colors and derivations they teach, religions, they teach the same thing, that there is reality, unchanging, uncertain reality only in the soul of man, only. So what are we doing? This is a very important point for us to understand and to accept. There is only one thing that is certain and unchanging: our own self. Now, the Hindus found their creed upon the ancient Vedas. Veda is a word derived from the root vid, to know. These are a series of books which, to our mind, contain the essence of all religion. They teach us the immortality of the soul, where we can find certainty only. In the Mahabharata, one of the two major Sanskrit epics of India, one of the characters, Yudhishthira, inquired Bhishma, his uncle and great sage, about the nature of the soul. "O son of Pritha," Bhishma said, "that thou ask me about, I will presently discourse upon. It's highly agreeable and productive of great felicity. The five senses and the mind, are the sources of all the perceptions of a living creature. The seventh is called the understanding, and the eighth, the soul. The senses are for perceiving. The mind, unable to deal with these perceptions, produces uncertainty. The understanding reduces all perceptions to certainty." It's pretty good. The secret is here. The soul exists as the witness without acting. When the understanding is conquered, the yogi attains to omnipotence and perfect knowledge, or perception freed from the doubt and uncertainty with respect to all things. Perfect knowledge comes to him. That's the teaching. As we can see, we have a high standard before us, but we should make efforts to understand. After all, it's all about understanding. What do we need to understand? In every human breath, there is a natural desire to find a stable equilibrium, something that does not change. Already said. We cannot find it in nature, in this world. We cannot find it. For all the universe is nothing but an infinite mass of changes. The Vedanta philosophy teaches that man is no doubt by his five senses. The Vedanta philosophy teaches that man is not bound, not doubt, is not bound by the five senses. How is that? We feel bound. But it's not. We can go beyond the senses. We can. We only know the present. Listen, we only know the present. That's all we know. Past is gone, future uncertain. All we know is where we are at. Neither the future nor the past, but as the present signifies both past and future, and all three are only demarcations of time, the present only would be unknown if it were not for something above the senses, something independent of time, which unifies past and future in the present. What is that? What is independent? That independent something. Not our body, for it depends upon outward conditions. Not our mind, because thoughts, the thoughts of which is composed, is caused. It is in our soul. The Vedas say the whole world is a mixture of independence and dependence, of freedom and slavery. But through it all shines the soul independent, immortal, pure, perfect, holy. For if it is independent, it cannot die, as death is but a change and depends upon conditions. If independent, it must be perfect, for imperfection is again but a condition and therefore dependent. And this immortal and perfect soul must be the same in the highest God as well as in the humblest man, the difference between them being only in the degree in which this soul manifests itself. This immortal and perfect soul must be the same in the highest God as well as in every one of us. The difference being only in the degree in which the soul manifests itself. Now, we need to understand. Our scriptures say we need to understand. First thing first, we need to accept our real nature. Divine, unchanging, eternally present beings. Divine, always present, unchanging beings. Second, We need to understand the reason why we crave for certainty. And by now, you should know. We need to understand the reason why we crave for certainty, even though in the world that is constantly changing, it doesn't make the slightest sense to look for it in the world. Our madness for the unchanging, our search for what is certain. As divine beings, complete and eternal that we are, we need to understand what's the purpose and then of our being here in this world. The purpose is to dare to expand, to express that freedom. And I say to dare to live. Human beings are so unique, you know. We are walking gods on earth. Again, the goal of Vedanta demands that we wake up to our divinity and express it in every single movement of our life. Every single movement. That's it. That's the purpose. Why are we here? Express your divinity. Manifest it. The third thing we need to understand is the relationship that we have with our idea as human beings about the highest thought we can think of. The relationship with that thought, the highest thought is our relationship, what we call God. It's nothing but the highest thought we can think of. It's not presented to us, hey, this is your God. You created. That's the highest thing you can think of. The oneness in the midst of diversity. The circle, whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere. If it is everywhere, it must be in you, in you, in you, in you, and in me. We as divine beings, we identify with our names and forms. We, as human beings, identify ourselves with our names and forms, whose circumference is nowhere, but its center is in some body. We limit it. We limit our divinity to this very center, our body. But in reality, we should be everywhere. Our center should be in everything. The purpose of life is to expand in the awareness, in the consciousness that we live in God. We live through God and for God. Our teacher Vivekananda says, the worship of the impersonal through symbols, full of meaning, divine meaning. It will make us strong. Get hold of a symbol. Worship it. Honor it. Strength. Strength is that we want, we need so much in our life. For what we call sin and sorrow have all one single cause, that is our weakness. With weakness comes ignorance, and with ignorance comes misery. What do you think was the cause of that strength of Jesus of Nazareth? Vivekananda says, that immense, infinite strength. I and my Father are one, was his prayer. Father, just as I am one with you, so make them one, so make them all one with me. That is the worship of the impersonal God. Be one with the universe. Be one with Him. Bodies and minds change, misery, happiness, good and evil come and go. Days and years roll on, life comes and goes, but He dies not. The same voice, I am, is eternal, unchangeable. I am. In Him and through Him we know everything. In Him and through Him we see everything. In Him and through Him we sense, we think, we live, we are. And that I, which we mistake to be a little I, limited, is not only my I, but your I, the I of everyone, of the animals, of the angels, of the lowest of the low. He resides in every soul and eternally declares, I am He, I am that. When we have understood that voice, eternally present, when we have learned this lesson, the whole universe will have expressed its secret. Nature will have given up her secret to us. Nothing remains to be known. Well, that was big. But the truth, we need to embrace it, we need to accept it, nothing to do but that. Again, the highest aspiration of our spirit is to find out something that does not change, that has reached a state of permanent perfection. This is the aspiration of the human soul after the infinite. The finer our moral and intellectual development, the stronger will become this aspiration after the eternal that changes not. We have seen that we are immortal with regard to the whole, but the difficulty is, and this is very important, the difficulty is that we desire so much to be immortal as parts of the whole. We desire so much to be immortal as parts of the whole. And I tell you, that's a huge problem, because that's the root of all misery. We've been trying. The result, suffering, suffering, suffering. There is no way out. The difficulty is we desire so much to be immortal as parts of the whole. We have seen that we are infinite. That is our real identity. But we want so much to make these little souls individual. What becomes of them when we find in our everyday experience that these little souls are individuals with only this reservation that they are continuously growing individuals. What do we find? The same. And yet, not the same. I know. The I of yesterday is the I of today. And yet, not so. It's changed somehow. The most ancient theory of the soul is based upon the argument of self-identity, I am I. That the I of yesterday is the I of today, and the I of today will be the I of tomorrow. That in spite of all the changes that are happening into our body, I yet believe that I am the same I. Isn't that your experience? Undeniable. I do, I go, I dream, I sleep, I move. And here you will find it claimed that the doing, going, dreaming, etc. have been changing. But what remained constant was that I. The I is something which is constant and an individual in itself. But all these changes belong to the body and our identification with it. Hope it's clear. The I and the doing, going, and dreaming may be separate in black and white, but no one can separate them in their minds. Our identity is so strong, unfortunately. Now, let's analyze our daily reality. Most of you must be thinking, Swami, that's high philosophy. Come on. I don't know how you are applying this in your life. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. We need to live in the present, clearly. That's all we have. And we are certain about it. Besides, it is the foundation over which we build our future, regardless uncertainty. We need to live the adventure of life, the expectation, the frustration, the uncertainty and the tension, the anticipation. That's life. We can't deny that. Let life unfold its mysteries. When nothing is sure, anything is possible. Isn't it beautiful? That's the salt of life. Let the drama of life go on. Be the spectator, the viewer. We need to be excited about what's next in the movie of life. We can't allow ourselves to be afraid. We have to be open, to be surprised by the possibilities that can appear before us. Everything is in constant state of flux. We shouldn't be afraid about living. That's how we learn, by daring to live. Dare to be adventurous by embracing life. And I know, some of us might think, Swami, that goes against monastic life. No. Don't get me wrong. We'll go to it. We'll come to it. Life is beautiful. Life has been given to us for a reason, for a purpose. To expand and not be afraid. We already know the most certain thing that is coming to us. We know that. It's a matter of time. And it can come anytime. Uncertainty and expectations are the joys of life. Security is an insipid thing. Knowledge is an unending adventure at the edge of uncertainty. Knowledge is an unending adventure at the edge of uncertainty. Difficult times come and go like the ocean's tide. Suffering is a term that has external and internal aspects. The internal aspects of suffering really demands patience, maturity. The internal aspect of suffering really demands patience, maturity, and especially during this time of uncertainty. And there are those times when the reality of this uncertainty becomes acutely palpable. So it really hurts our body too. We are all experiencing some degree of suffering right now. Let us recapitulate what we need to remember. First, we need to accept our real nature, divine, unchanging, eternal, present, ever present. Second, we need to understand the reason why we crave for certainty in a world that is constantly changing, our madness for the unchanging. clearly we want to come back to ourselves. That is the only thing that will never change. Third, and here's the point, we need to understand the relationship we have with our idea of the highest thought we can think of, our idea of God. Now, clear. One, we need to understand who we truly are, why we crave for certainty, number two. Number three, what's our relationship with that we call God? And fourth, we need to accept certain facts, pun intended, of life. We need to accept certain facts of life. What are you talking about? You just said that everything is uncertain, but there are certain facts of life that we need to accept. What are those facts? In the Bhagavad Gita, one of the pillars of the Vedanta, Sri Krishna introduces a way of life. It's usually known by karma yoga, but it's also known as the yoga of the evenness of mind. In Sanskrit, it's called samatvam. Samatvam yoga uchyate, he says, Lord Krishna. It's a way of life where we need to exert ourselves to maintain the right attitude towards ourselves as divine beings, towards God as He being our being with capital, whose center is everywhere, and our attitude towards life. The outcome would be a state of mind that expresses poise, equanimity, tranquility, and joy, no matter the circumstances. This yoga is exercised by our mind. It takes place in our mind while physically we remain engaged. A calm, balanced mind that is able to confront the ups and downs of life. Now the question is, how do we practice this? Sounds good, but kind of like you have to be like a yogi or something. No matter how many times you might repeat inner peace, inner peace, the reality is that our mind is heavily affected by the external world, and we experience different emotions like frustration, anxiety, anger, fear. We get depressed. Viktor Frankl says, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. When we are no longer to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses, says Carl Jung. If we observe our minds are constantly expressing conflict, constantly reacting violently, our scriptures demand we pay attention to this and do something about it. To stay in this evenness of mind, to practice this samatvam, state of mind, to turn that into our reality. We need to become fully aware, like a realization, more than a aha moment. It has to be like yours, of this fundamental truth, which are facts in life. Fact number one, life is a mixture of pleasure and pain. It's never one or the other, but a combination of both. Life is a mixture of pleasure and pain. It's always a combination of both. Accept it. Embrace it. Nobody, absolutely nobody can stay away from this experience. Not even the great teachers, not even the world teachers like Jesus, Buddha, or Ramakrishna. In our scriptures, we find plenty of stories depicting this fact of life. In the Puranas, the Hindu epics, all these characters, they have to go through conflicts and wars. Life is a mixture of both pleasure and pain. There is nothing to do. It is what it is. Accept it, embrace it, realize it. In our scriptures, again, we don't find a specific method. We don't find a specific method to stay away from pain, to avoid suffering. But what they teach us is how to manage it. Suffering is called dukkha management, an efficient method to manage suffering or pain. How to respond to pain the best way possible. In our scriptures, we find the concept of the liberated soul called Jivan Mukta. But let us not be confused. That doesn't mean that he is free from experiencing pleasure and pain. It means he has developed a very strong immune system and cannot be affected by either. He has mastered a way not to be affected by either. He responds with mastery. Our duty is to sympathize with the weak and love even the wrongdoer. The world is a grand moral gymnasium wherein we have all to take exercise so as to become stronger and stronger spiritually. Accept it. Life is a combination of both, pleasure and pain. Fact number 2, our future is always uncertain, unpredictable, always. We never know what's going to happen. We can be surprised anytime. In fact, we have been surprised. We don't know when pleasure is coming. We don't know when sorrow is coming, although this comes more often. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Do not resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. There is an infinite number of factors which are not in our control. Unfortunately, as humans, we come to this world ready to be deceived. We naturally go outside, and no one teaches us how to connect with this fountain of knowledge within us. In other words, we don't get to see the whole picture. With our limited vision, we try to figure out what comes next. Which is not possible. We need to accept this. Remember, all you have is your present. Life is a beautiful and adventurous journey. There are and there will always be many factors unknown to us. And this is in every aspect of our life. Life is clad in uncertainty. Like a ghost, it's hard to see it, only when it's right in front of you, and you panic. What we call God sent us here without warranty. Kind of like, good luck. Fact number 3, as it wasn't enough with the uncertainty in life, we need to add to that there are many, many circumstances beyond our control. Beyond our control. We literally have very little to no control over the many surprises that life gives us. We have no choice over many situations in our life which are painful, which are difficult. See what's happening. Which we would like to avoid, but most of the time, it's not possible. The moment we accept, the moment we embrace these three facts to be unquestionably true in our life, Viktor Frankl says, what is to give light must endure burning. The moment we accept, the moment we embrace these three facts to be unquestionably true in our life, then and then alone we can change our attitude towards life. Not before. Unquestionably true. Our attitude towards time, past, and future by living in the present. Most of our fears are due to anxieties of possible, not possible future. Once we accept that our future is unpredictable, once we accept our unpredictable future to be unavoidable, then we decide to confront our future by working in the present moment. What am I doing to influence my future right now? What am I doing to influence my future right now, regardless uncertainty? Let's get our hopes up by living our lives, by being mentally prepared for the worst at any moment. And why not? We shouldn't be that fatalistic. Even for the best. Be prepared for the best. After all, we should practice this evenness of mind. Let us prepare our mind to confront unexpected situations, uncertain, unavoidable situations in life need to be faced with strength and faith. We have to prepare our minds by making them strong, by accepting these three facts of life. Fact number one, life is a mixture of both pleasure and pain. Fact number two, our future is always uncertain. Fact number three, in life there are many circumstances beyond our control. You have to start today. We can't wait to make these changes in our life. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. So we have to prepare for the unpredictable future. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You see, my child, probably know this, no one can avoid facing dangers in life. Difficulties always come, but they do not last forever. You will see that they pass away like water under the bridge. This statement, this saying from Holy Mother, always stayed with me. Like water under the bridge. Me being the bridge, observing, witnessing the water and just passing. This yoga of evenness of mind is all about strength. It is only the weak mind that becomes anxious and fearful of the future. And again, it's the weak mind that is not willing to accept the painful present. Now, don't have much time, but the million-dollar question. How do I make my mind strong? Well, Vedanta talks about two ways. Just take them or leave it. By the power of our will, assertions, determination, autosuggestion, declaration of a statement, willpower. by connecting or tapping into our own inner nature, where we all have infinite strength within us. We have that determination to go within by the power of our own will. Practice, practice, practice will definitely make you perfect. In Sanskrit, we call that sankalpa, a vow, a daily vow. I resolve. For example, I assert the following statement. Knowing that in this world, pleasure and pain are inevitable, knowing that in this world, that the future is always uncertain, knowing that in this world, that I have no control over certain circumstances, I will endure. By the power invested by the truth, the facts of life, I make myself stronger. I declare and declare I will not suffer. Willpower. This is life, this is the world. What we think, we become. This is the power of sankalpa. I put all the confidence in myself as an individual. A strong mind uses substitution whenever it is assaulted by difficult thoughts, just like as a healthy immune system fights disease. Like grief, forgiveness, hurt, joy, disempowerment, empowerment. We kind of have to work with ourselves. That's one practice, that's one way. Practice number 2, by depositing that power in the hands of what we call our God. We are going to call upon God by the power of prayer. In a way, it's like a sankalpa, but instead of putting the whole load on our shoulders, I am going to surrender to my God, who already knows better since he gets the whole picture. God will act here as a symbol, the ultimate truth. He symbolizes our own higher nature. We are free to embrace any name and any form that represents the highest idea ever possible by the human mind. Could be Jesus, could be Buddha, endowed with total power beyond the 3 facts of life. Whatever happens is for me to endure and to grow. I draw strength from my God. I kind of like it. So I say the Serenity Prayer. Lord, grant me the strength to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Practical. I invoke your will and accept whatever comes to me as an opportunity to grow and expand. Should we say a prayer? My sweet Lord, I have no idea where I'm going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think that I am following your will does not mean that I am actually doing it. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope that I have that desire in all that I'm doing. And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road. Although I may know nothing about it, therefore will I trust you always. Though I may seem to be lost, and in the shadow of death I will not fear, for you are ever with me and will never leave me to face my perils alone. Thomas Merton. He who struggles to achieve self-control finds joy in it. Now, once we get the right attitude towards life, there is only one single thing left for us. What is it? To live. To live. Simple, beautiful. We have to act. We have to take action. Self-doubt, worry, anxiety are the results of not of action, but of a mental turbulence, compulsive overthinking, feeling anxious about being anxious, a type of wrong analysis that is paralyzing. When we fail to act, we get caught up in the endless what-if loop. Nothing is accomplished, and we only doubt ourselves even more. If we act, however, we will accomplish our goals and find fulfillment. If we act and fail, we will learn from the experience. Nothing to lose, nothing to gain. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Ma karma phalahe turbohu, ma karma phalahe turbohu, ma te sangosto karmani. Do not become the agent of the results of your actions. Do not become the agent of the results of your actions. Never give way to laziness either. May you not have any inclination for inaction. Be ever even-tempered in success and failure, for it is this evenness of temper which is meant by what we call yoga. Let the drama of life go on. Be the spectator, the viewer. We need to be excited about what's next in the movie of life. And speaking of movies, remember Forrest Gump? My mom always said, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. And I add to that, but you shouldn't be afraid to pick whatever comes and experience life until the box is over. You should dare to live a life that provokes you to grow and expand. I am not inviting you to live a hedonistic, selfish life, but the opposite. I am inviting you not to be afraid of life. Life is short. Give it up to a great cause. One of the things that really struck me when studying Swami Vivekananda's life was actually quite beautiful. He confesses to one of his friends, I may have to be born again because I have fallen in love with man, meaning life. Which really struck me because here is a line coming from a man which is the greatest monk on earth, according to me, of course, the true renouncer, who says this thirst for life forever quench, who drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. Here is a man who is encouraging you to throw away this clinging to life, and yet he's telling us, I may have to come back. I have fallen in love with this. Speaking of movies, I think life is nothing but a movie, and we are its actors on a stage. And it's an old movie, Those moviegoers may know what I'm talking about. It's a 1982. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, but most of you have. It's called Blade Runner. Beautiful movie. Why do you like it, Swami? Well, yeah, sometimes I surprise myself. I don't know why I liked it, but now I know. I don't have time to tell you the plot of it, but basically it's about these replicants, bioengineered beings, which are virtually identical to adult human beings, and have superior strength, speed, agility, resilience, and intelligence. They were designed to live 4 years only. They wanted to learn the secret of life. They had fallen in love with life. And mind you, they were not human beings. But one of them discovers out of resignation, listen, out of resignation and surrender. Finishing. One of them discovers out of resignation and surrender the ultimate truth. At this point, he has nothing to lose, nothing to gain. He had heard from his engineer creator, from his God, you can say, the most famous quote by Lao Tzu. He said to him, "The light that burns twice as bright burns half as long." He said to him, "And you have burned so very, very brightly." He couldn't do anything. He was destined to die. He had understood that life is to be lived brightly. In the rain, as a scene, with tears in his eyes, he says, "I have seen things you people couldn't believe." All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. He who truly wants to live needs to die to his ego. All created beings begin to die as soon as they begin to live. So obvious. We are dying all the time. It's time to live. It's time to live in appreciation and harmony with each other. It's time to stand up for what is right. And listen, it's happening in this world. It's time to stand up for what is right. We are done. Never mind the consequences. It's time to sacrifice our lives for a great cause. Let's dare to live. Thank you. to all the fathers, happy Father's Day. How could I forget that? I have to call my dad. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may that outer world, Om, that outer world is Purna, full of divine consciousness. This inner world is also Purna, full of divine consciousness. From Purna comes Purna, from fullness of divine consciousness. The world is manifested. Taking Purna from Purna, Purna indeed remains because divine consciousness is non-dual and infinite. Om, peace, peace, peace be to all. Announcements?
Next week, Vidyaprana, the power of stories.
The power of stories. Next week, next Sunday, 11 a.m. by Pravrajika Vidyaprana.
And now, I will answer questions on Google Meet.
Okay, I'm getting the script here. And now I will answer your questions on Google Meet. Okay, so
In the chat.
that is available to you in the chat.
The chat
Yeah.
link has been.
In the chat, the link's been given. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, really. I enjoy it. Thank you so much. I am imagining a whole audience here, but I know the viewers, and you guys are all there. Thank you.